All right, let's take a look at some more questions. We're going to do a few things in this video related to process costing systems. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to learn how to determine the cost per equivalent unit. And we're also going to look at calculating cost of goods transferred out another department or to finished goods, that sort of thing. So this is kind of the meat of process costing, but we're going to get started up here with a little true-false question. It says costs of ending work in process inventory are included in the cost per equivalent unit computation. And so if we think about this, when we're talking about the first in, first out process costing method, we are going to be looking at, and we're going to break these costs down as we have been into materials costs and conversion costs. And so a lot of examples, we have materials that are added at the beginning of the process. But with conversion costs, they're generally going to be added throughout the process. And so we may have beginning work in process inventory that is incomplete as to conversion costs, and then also ending in process inventory incomplete as to conversion costs. And so we're going to use both of those numbers to determine our number of equivalent units. If you recall, that step must be done before we can determine the cost per equivalent unit. So this is absolutely a true statement here. We're going to say, okay, with regard to ending inventory that is not complete, what percentage complete is it? We had an example earlier where we had 1,600 units that were what were they? 40% complete as to conversion cost. Pull up a calculator here, and I'll make that a little bit smaller. And we said we had 1,600 units that were 40% complete as to conversion cost. Well, that's equivalent to 640 full units. Okay, so that's why this is a true statement. Looks like we have a company here, Penny employs a process costing system. Direct materials are added at the beginning of the process, and we have some information about their activities. So before we get too much into that, let's just see what I'm going to ask us to do here, because I have a feeling it's quite a bit. Okay, so they want to, it says, using the FIFO method, determine the cost per equivalent unit for materials during July, the cost per equivalent unit for conversion costs during July, and the cost of goods completed and transferred out during the month of July. It says round materials and conversion costs per unit to 4 decimal places. Well, what it does not tell us we're going to have to do is to convert the number of equivalent units. So let's go ahead and actually do that first, because if we don't do that, we can do anything else. Now, let's just see. Well, this is the example that we had before, so we've actually already done this. And what we said was that we started 15,000 units in the period, but that 1,600 of those weren't done. So to come up with equivalent units, and again we must do this first, we're going to take this 15,000 were started in the period, and the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to subtract out all of the units that were not completed. Okay, and that's going to give us the number that were started and completed during the period. Started and completed. But we also said that we had to do a couple of other things. We had to account for the the number of units, equivalent units, this 850 is 60% complete, but that means that it's 40% incomplete, and those are going to be the first units that we finish before we do anything else. So we're going to have to add 340 units up here. And this is completed from beginning inventory. Okay. And then finally, we have these 1,600 here that are not completed. That's why they're not part of this. We subtracted it out at 15,000 to get this 13,400 that were started and completed. But they're 40% done. And again, if you've watched the other video, you've already seen this calculation. 640. Okay. Equivalent units in ending inventory. Okay, and then so we just add the 340 plus the bigger number, the 13,400. And that gives us 14,380 equivalent units. All right, and we have to do that first. Now, again, we've already done that, but there could be somebody looking at this video that needs this information, but they didn't watch the other video, so it's okay that we did that again. That's fine. All right. So let's see here. They want to know the cost per equivalent unit of materials for July was. Now, before we do that, I want to remind you, so they say round materials and conversion costs per unit to 4 decimal places. Okay, very good. So we now have our cost per equivalent unit. I'm sorry, our number of equivalent units, but we're not going to need that for materials, and the reason is because materials are added at the beginning of the process. So this is going to be a very, very simple calculation. The cost per equivalent unit for materials used during July was, see, these 340 here, they already had their materials. So all 1,600 of these and all 13,400 of these all had material. So all we have to do to get this is we can use this 15,000 and we can say direct materials added are 155,000. Okay, and just divide it by the full 15,000. We can only get away with doing this again because direct materials are added at the beginning of the process. Okay, and that's going to give us $10 at 0.3333. They want us to do it to 4 decimal places. So I'm going to move this over here. Cost per equivalent unit. Let's see here. The calculation would be $155,000 divided by 15,000 units is going to equal $10.3, basically $10.33. But we're going to do what they told us to do, and that's our figure. I apologize. I am having to reach quite a ways to get to the piece of paper, so my line is not very straight here. So that's easy enough. We've done that. We've actually answered this question. We just need to make sure we understand that materials are a little bit easier because they're added at the beginning of the process here. Okay, cost per equivalent unit for conversion costs during July was. Okay, so now we've got conversion costs added, $80,520. But what number are we going to divide it by? Well, we're going to divide it by this figure right here, 14,380. So let's bring our calculator back over here. 83. Let's see here now. 520 divided by our number of equivalent units for conversion costs, 14,380. And let's expand this out and bring this over here. Is 5 point, let's see here, equals 5,808.1. Okay. So we've done that. Notice we use the added cost for both direct materials and for conversion costs, but we divided by different numbers, again, because direct materials are added at the beginning of the process. The amount of conversion units is smaller because that is done throughout the process. Okay, so the cost of goods completed and transferred out during July was, okay, well, this is pretty good information here, but this is a little bit, we're going to have to do some calculations. Probably could have done this number 1 down here and number 2 down here. We've got plenty of room on this paper, but that's okay. Let's put a little circle around this to indicate that that's our answer so the teacher doesn't get confused. Okay, for parts 1 and 2. So what we have to figure out here, okay, this is very, very important, is they want to know cost of goods completed and transferred out during July. So when we do this, when we do number 3 here, we have to understand that we're going to be using our cost per unit for materials and our cost per unit for conversion costs. However, we're going to be multiplying each of these numbers by a different figure, because it says the cost of goods completed and transferred out during July. Well, for materials, all we have to do to come up with that figure is take the 15,000 that we started and subtract the number that we can't transfer out, which is 1,600. And that's going to give us this 13,400. For materials, okay, we're going to have 13,400 units times $10.33.33. Okay, and so let's just go ahead and execute that. And that's going to come up to $138,000, $138,466, and I'm just going to be really precise and put the cents on there as well. Okay. However, for conversion costs, it's a little bit different. See, for conversion costs, we certainly have this 13,400. Those are complete, but we also have to take completed from beginning inventory. So it's a different number. It's the 13,400 that were both started and completed, plus the 340 that were completed from beginning inventory. See, notice again, they want completed and transferred out during July. So this is going to be a different figure. 13,740 times our $5.8081. Okay, let's erase this. Well, no, I didn't need to do that. I'm sorry. 13,740 times 5.8081 equals $79,803.29. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay. Okay. So, if we were to add $138,466.02 plus $79,803.29, we're going to come up with $218,269.51. However, we're still not finished. And let me show you why. Because we also have this $9,000 in costs that we already had at the beginning of the period. So we're going to go ahead and add an additional $5,000. Let's see, what was that? That was direct materials up here. And then an additional $4,000 to these figures. So I'm just going to, I know that this is 9,000, so I'm just going to say plus 9,000. And then I'm going to go ahead and round this figure to $227,270. And this is my answer for part 3. So we have 3 answers in this question. Part 1 is 10.333. Cost per equivalent unit for conversion costs, 5.8081. And, excuse me, cost of goods completed and transferred out, 227,270. Okay, this video is starting to get kind of long, so let's look at what we're going to do is we're going to end this video, and then we're going to look at another example that's somewhat similar to this one in the next video.